This is Camp Randall Stadium in Madison, the home of the 2022 WIAA State Football Championships. They'll be played there Thursday and Friday, November 18th. It's been the home of the state finals for football since 1982, and 224 11-man football teams will be hoping to get their chance to play for a state title next month. Hi, everybody. Thanks for being with us for the WIAA Football Playoffs Reveal Show, the first ever. Along with Bob Brainerd, I'm Jay Wilson. We were expecting Travis Wilson to be here from WISports.net, but Travis unfortunately had a little medical issue come up, and we hope he's doing better. Hope he recovers very soon, and hopefully he'll be around for Level 1 games at some stadium around the state come Friday. Also joining us today will be Jason Zaleski from up north in the central Wisconsin area, and Jason will provide some insights onto some of the powerful teams in that area of the state, and good to have Jason along. We'll be getting to him in just a little bit. Bob, this is an exciting day. A lot of people on pins and needles right now.
Yeah, first time we're ever doing this, the bracket reveal. I call it Saturday Breakfast Brackets. I know there's a lot of coaches, players, parents, fans everywhere around the state. They've been probably up for a couple hours, eager to see where they're going to play in Level 1.
Well, breakfast time. Let's eat.
Let's do it.
Let's take a look first at the 8-man brackets. These are the 16 teams that will compete for the 8-man championship, the state championship game, November 12th at Wisconsin Rapids Lincoln High School. There's the groups A and B. Siren and Solon Springs will play in Siren Friday. Clayton will be at Shell Lake Friday at 7. In Group B, McDonald Catholic and Newman Catholic will play Friday at 7. And it will also be Three Lakes Phelps and Gilman playing Friday at 7.
And Jay, Newman Catholic, number 1 ranked in the state and number 1 ranked for a reason. They were the state champs in 8-man last year, trying to become the first team to win it back-to-back.
All right, let's look at the other side of the bracket. That will include Belmont and Oakfield. That game at Belmont Friday at 7. All these games will be played Friday night at 7 o'clock, by the way. Port Edwards will be at DeSoto. DeSoto qualified 37 times for 11-man playoffs. This will be their 38th time, more than any school in WIAA football history. Also, it will be Gibraltar hosting Lena St. Thomas Aquinas Friday, and it will be Wabeno Leona going to Florence, and that is your 18-team bracket for the 8-player tournament. Let's get a quick comment from Jason Zaleski and Newman Catholic out of Wausau. They're certainly the team that's going to have to be beaten.
Yeah, as Bob just said, reigning champs coming into this year's tournament. They've won 23 straight games. That is the longest streak right now in high school football in the state of Wisconsin. They're going to be a tough out again here this year. They've outscored their opponents 212-12 on the year, just rolling through their competition. Connor Kroc at quarterback, 967 yards passing, over 300 yards rushing. Newman, again, be a tough out in this year's tournament.
Yeah, Newman defeated Luck last year in the state championship game, 49-6. Okay, that's the 8-player field. Now let's get to the 11-man lineups. We start with the Division 7 groupings. Our first matchup, upper left part of the bracket in Group A, Pacelli and Regis. That's an old rematch from the old CWCC conference days.
Yeah, it sure is. And Regis, Jay, is ranked number 1 in Division 7 in the state. 9-0 are the Ramblers. They outscored their opponents 374-75. They score 42 points a game. Ramblers going to hopefully ramble back into Camp Randall.
City will play at Elmwood Plum City Friday night. Trevor Asher, the leading rusher of the state, 2,200 rush yards, 28 touchdowns. After that, it's going to be Spring Valley hosting Hurley Friday night, and the number 2 seed Edgar will host Turtle Lake. That's coming up Friday at 7 as well, as we look at the other side of the bracket now in Division 7. And there's the reveal for Groups B.
Pepin Alma taking on Iowa Grant. Then you've got Blair Taylor in a 4-5 matchup. River Ridge is number 3 seed over there against Cochrane Fountain City. And then you see the 2-7 side of the bracket there in Division 7. As we kick it over to Division 7 as well, Cashton Number 2 ranked behind Regis in Division 7 in the last weekly ratings. They're going to get Deerfield in round 1. Then New Lisbon and Ithaca are the 4-5 matchup. You've got Assumption facing Pittsville and Highland taking on number 2 Blackhawk / Warren, Illinois. Blackhawk, no strangers to the state tournament and making it to that final championship. And then Cambria Friesland taking on the Hilbert Wolves in a 1-8 matchup. Randolph and Johnson Creek. Reedsville is number 3 in this side of the bracket, Jay. They were the D7 champs a year ago. They now move up to Division 6. They get Catholic Central in round 1 and Lord's Academy and Shiocton. That wraps up your Division 7 side of the bracket.
Let's get some reaction on the bracket from Jason again.
Yeah, in the Northwest side, Bob talked about Regis and a prolific scoring offense. Their closest division game was against D6 Mondovi. They beat Mondovi 37-14, and I know Edgar would love to have a piece of Regis. That could happen. Carter Butt, leading rusher, 923 yards, also leads the team with 62 tackles. On the central portion of that bracket, on that right-hand side, Assumption and Pittsville, that game is a regular season matchup. That game came down to the wire, guys. With a minute 49 left in the game, Assumption's Jack Klott punched in what turned out to be the game-winning touchdown. So Pittsville was right there, the 6-seeded Panthers right there with the Royals up until the end. That game was in Pittsville. Playoff game in Wisconsin Rapids, though, this time.
You know that I went to grade school in Pittsville and went to high school at Assumption? I don't know what to do.
Now, there's a nugget. I'm also looking at a possible Regis-Edgar matchup to get to level 4. That would be a level 3 matchup. We know about Edgar and the state championships, and Regis, the road isn't easy for the Ramblers, but that could be a level 3 matchup just to get to level 4.
This is the 36th time that Edgar has qualified for the state playoffs. They have the most playoff wins of any high school with 89, 7 state championships for Edgar. So, yeah, the Wildcats certainly know how to get to Madison and accomplish things when they get there. All right, that's a look at the 8-man and the Division 7 brackets. Let's take a break, and we'll be back to look at the lineups for Divisions 6 and 5 as we continue with the WIAA Football Playoffs Reveal Show on Valley Sports Wisconsin. We continue our WIAA Playoffs Reveal Show. Bob Brainerd, Jay Wilson, and Jason Zaleski also joining us. Let's continue on now with our reveal as we head to the brackets in Division 6. These are the Division 6 brackets. Again, competition begins with games next Friday night at 7 around the state. Let's take a closer look at the brackets. In Group A, Grantsburg, the champions of the Lakeland Conference, get a number 1 seed. They will face Cameron in Grantsburg Friday. And there you see the upper left part of the bracket is it'll be Crandon at Unity Friday night. Also, Cadott and Ladysmith will be playing at Cadott Friday night, and then Cumberland will visit Stratford Friday as well. Our Group B brackets include Cameron, the champions of the Northwoods League, 9-0 on the season coming in. They'll face Manawa. Check that. It's Grantsburg will face Cameron at Grantsburg, Then also Crandon at Unity, Cadott against Ladysmith, and Cumberland at Stratford. Also in Division 6, Coleman, Manawa, Howards Grove, Cedar Grove, Belgium, Crivets, Bondwell, and Wyoega Fremont, St. Mary Springs.
Jay, Coleman ranked number 1. They were the D7 state champs. So again, they're moving up to Division 6, ranked number 2 in the latest rankings in the state. And at the bottom there, you had St. Mary Springs. We'll come back to that later because there's a really good matchup brewing on that side of the bracket.
And here are Group C pairings. Marshall at Westfield, or make that Westfield at Marshall. It'll be Marquezan and Auburndale playing in Auburndale. Fall Creek will be at Mondovi, and Augusta will travel to Bangor in a 2-7 matchup. And our final 8 teams in the Division 6 bracket. Kenosha St. Joseph's will be hosting Mineral Point as a number 1 seed. It'll be Belleville hosting Waterloo in the 4-5. Lancaster travels to Luther, and Darlington The Cardinals host Westby.
And keep your eye peeled on Kenosha St. Joseph, Jay and Jason. Number 4 rank in the state, number 1 on this side of the bracket. They beat Racine Lutheran last night 28-7 to go unbeaten, win the Midwest Classic. They, too, are a juggernaut on offense. They outscored their opponents 390-55. Matt Rizzo's the head coach there. Jaden Gordon, outstanding running back, 22 rushing touchdowns, over 1,300 rushing yards. St. Joe's, the Lancers, are going to be a formidable opponent on that side in Division 6.
Jason, what do you see in Division 6?
Yeah, what I see, take a look at that top left bracket, really the Lakeland Conference bracket, if you will, with Grantsburg, Unity, and Ladysmith all out of the same conference. Of course, Grantsburg conference champs this year, 204-42 on the season scoring differential there. Stratford as the 2 seed, going to be a very tough out in that. We talked about in Division 7 with Regis and Edgar. You got Grants, Stratford, both I'm sure would love to have a piece of each other there. They might get that in a level 3. Braden Schiller from Stratford over 1,000 yards passing. Kohler Kilty over 1,000 yards rushing. So they do it on the air, on the ground, and in the air due to the Stratford Tigers. Take a look at the top right. Interesting there, Auburndale and Markesan, the 4-5. And the 4-5 is always a tight one, no matter what type of bracket that you're looking at. But Auburndale, Markesan, that's a 2019 rematch. Now, most of those kids in 19 probably aren't playing on Friday night, but still a rematch from 19, which Auburndale won. Auburndale, conference champ out of the Merriwood. It was a 3-way conference split in that Merriwood, but Auburndale, conference champs with their win over Colby last night, 20-14. They come in then as conference champs. They're 8-1 and probably very happy to have a home game. They might be a little bit questioning just that 4 seed with upsetting last year's D6 champs Colby, but Auburndale happy probably to have a home game and looking forward to the Markesan Hornets.
Guys, I'm looking at this bottom left second bracket. You've got 2 defending state champs that could meet in level 3. You've got Coleman, who won the D7 title a year ago, and St. Mary Springs, who won the D6 title a year ago. But actually, they were both runners-up. I beg your pardon. They were both runners-up. But point being, you could have Coleman and Springs, both runners-up a year ago, meeting in level 3 to try to get to level 4 and get closer to a shot at state.
Belleville's a 4 seed, but they have the state's top passing quarterback, Aiden Keys, almost 2,600 yards and 36 touchdowns of the season. So we'll see how far that can carry a number 4 seed in Division 6. Okay, that's the Division 6 lineup. Let's go to Division 5 as we take a look at those pairings. As we continue on with our reveal show, let's go to the upper left quadrant. That's going to be Bloomer at St. Croix Falls. St. Croix Falls, the number 1 seed. Also in the upper left-hand part of the bracket, it's going to be Gay Electric Trempealeau at Colby in the 4-5. Durand, Arkansas, that co-op will be going to Aquinas. And in the 2-7, it's Stanley Boyd traveling to Northwestern.
And interesting here, Colby, of course, they were the champs in D6 a year ago. Aquinas were the champs a year ago in Division 5. Aquinas lost last night. They've been ranked number 1 for most of the year in Division 5, but they lost their finale last evening. So going to have to see how Aquinas bounces back. Going to have to see if Colby can get it done in Division 5 after getting it done last year in D6.
Let's take a look at Group B in Division 5. It's Brillion traveling to Southern Door, the number 1 seed there. Chilton and Clintonville will play in Clintonville Friday night, 7 o'clock. Kiel travels to Wittenberg, Burnhamwood, and Kewanee will be hosting as a number 2 seed. They will play Sturgeon Bay Friday night. As we continue our Division 5 groupings, the upper left part of the bracket, or the upper right part of the bracket, Prairie du Chien, number 1 seed, will face Omro. It will be Clinton hosting River Valley. It will be Laconia hosting Wautoma. And in the 2-7, Broadhead Judah gets a home game against Watertown Luther Prep. And our final grouping in Division 5 features Milwaukee Academy of Science going to Mayville. Also, the 4-5 there is Lake Country Lutheran at Oostburg. It will be Brookfield Academy going to University School of Milwaukee. And Racine Lutheran, the number 2 seed, will host Horicon Hustisford Friday night.
Mayville, of course, Jay, number 1 seed on this side of the bracket. They were runners-up in Division 5 a year ago, losing in the championship game, but they get another shot to get back there. How about Springs, though? how about Springs losing to Mayville last night? The final was 27-17. So Mayville wins the flyway in week 9 by knocking off Springs, who of course is in the other division. But I think Mayville, boy, runners up a year ago. You gotta believe that them beating Springs last night gives them a real good push. A lot of momentum certainly on this side of the bracket.
Yeah, that Division 5 final last year was Aquinas 28, Mayville 26, so you expect some fireworks in that Division 5 bracket. Jason, anything to add in Division 5?
Yeah, back to the top left, Bob said Aquinas had lost their finale. Colby, the 4 seed, lost their finale at home to Auburndale. We just talked about that in the D6, now D5. Colby, again, D6 champs last year, moving to D5, coming off that loss. So the same thing with Aquinas. How will the Colby Hornets respond to Coach Jim Hagan? Probably will get his guys ready against GET. And then seeding. So computerized seeding, a couple of years now in the olden days, Northwestern, Heart of North champions, the 2 seed this year. But in the olden days, being a champion, coaches would have walked into that seed meeting, most likely would have seeded Northwestern 1. Now St. Croix Falls is the 1. Strength of schedule, we're told, is a big piece of the pie when it comes to seeding. And that non-conference schedule for Northwestern, they took on Ashland, who's 3-6, and Somerset, who's 3-6. So a combined 6-12 record in their non-conference. What likely put St. Croix Falls on that 1 line is they played Unity 8-1 and Grantsburg 8-1. So 16-2 and 6-12. That strength of schedule putting second place St. Croix Falls over Northwestern on the 1 line in that bracket.
You heard Jason talk about Colby and Aquinas both losing last night in their season finales, but these are 2 defending state champs. They get a chance to meet in level 3. It could be Colby, it could be Aquinas, level 3 to get to level 4 to try to get back to state and defend their titles.
You lose last night. It's 0-0 now.
That's right.
Everybody starts from scratch.
All starts over.
And Jason mentioned the computer seating, and we'll be hearing in a little bit from Tom Shafransky, the WIAA assistant director and the football liaison, to talk a little bit more about how that works and the whole format on how this field of 224 11-man player teams comes to be and has the chance to win a state championship at Camp Randall Stadium next month. Okay, that's Division 5. We'll take a break and we'll be back with more playoff bracket reveals. 4 and 3 divisions are next as we continue here on Bally Sports Wisconsin. Welcome back to Bally Sports Wisconsin, the WIAA Football Playoffs Reveal Show. Bob Brainerd, Jay Wilson with you, along with Jason Zaleski, adding some insight on some of the teams from the northern and central parts of the state. Okay, we've gone through Division 5. Let's now head to our next brackets, Division 4. The Group A includes the number 1 seed in that area of the bracket, the Columbus Cardinals. They'll be hosting Altoona on Friday night at 7 o'clock. The 4-5 matchup there has Adams Friendship hosting Baldwin Woodville. It's also the 3-6 as St. Croix Central will travel to Wisconsin Dells, the Wisconsin Dells team, the champions of the South Central Conference. And Ellsworth gets a home game, the champions of the Middle Border Conference, as the 7th seed Boston will visit the number 2 seed Ellsworth.
Ellsworth, of course, the Panthers ranked number 2 on this side of the bracket. They were the runners-up, if you remember, a year ago in Division 4, got beat by Catholic Memorial, gave the Crusaders a game in the state title tilt. So they get a chance, Jay. If they can probably get past Columbus in level 3, they would get a shot at level 4 and a chance to get back to state. We'll see, though. Columbus, a very good outfit.
Let's look at Group B in Division 4. That's headed up by the number 1 seed Little Chute, the champions of the Northeastern Conference. They'll have a home game against Winneconne Friday night. Number 4 seed Wrightstown will host number 5 seed Xavier. The number 6 seed Denmark will travel to number 3 seed Berlin. And the number 2 seed is Freedom, as they will be hosting Oconto Falls on Friday night. Well, no surprise, Catholic Memorial, a number 1 seed, and Edgerton will travel to face the Crusaders Friday night in level 1. The 4-5 matchup in that part of the bracket as number 4 Lakeside Lutheran hosting number 5 Edgewood. Number 3 Lake Mills gets a home game against number 6 Evansville, and the 2nd seed Lodi hosts Platteville the number 7 seed.
All right, Jay, a couple notes here on this side of the bracket. Lodi upset by Lake Mills last night, so that may have shifted some of the seeding around for this side of the bracket. But you mentioned the Catholic Memorial. They're the team to beat. It doesn't matter if it's Division IV or anywhere in the state. Bill Young and his crew, they went unbeaten in the Parkland Conference. They had non-conference wins over Franklin and Marquette. Their closest test was in conference play. They beat Pewaukee 28-26. But Bill Young, third all-time in wins in the state of Wisconsin. He's got 388 and 120 losses and counting, of course. His team is loaded with Division I prospects. They will be the team to beat, no doubt, in Division IV.
Crusaders won titles in 2018, 2019, and 2021, and probably the only reason they didn't win in 2020 is because the tournament was canceled by COVID. Okay, let's look at the final 8 teams in the Division IV bracket. That includes another number 1 seed, Racine St. Catharines. They'll play number 8 seed St. Francis. The 4-5 has Sheboygan Falls traveling to Campbellsport. The number 3 seed, Two Rivers, the champions of the Eastern Wisconsin Conference, will host Kettle Moraine Lutheran. And the champions of the East Central Conference, Kewaskum, gets number 7 seed Kohler, Sheboygan Christian, Sheboygan Lutheran.
And a formidable opponent there is St. Catharines. The Angels, Jay, finished second in the Metro Classic. Their only loss was to the team that won it, Greendale Martin Luther. But they've outscored their opponents this year, 267-87. The Metro Classic, the last handful of years, it used to be all about Lake Country Lutheran. But now it's St. Cat's turn. It's Martin Luther's turn. Dan Miller has a really good offense down there, as you can expect. John Perugini. That's a tough one, John. I hope I'm getting it right. I hope I'm getting it close. He's the quarterback for the Angels, 26 passing touchdowns. So if St. Cat's can get to level 4, they would be able to probably face a Catholic Memorial team. Do they have enough horses in the stable, though, to keep up with the Crusaders? They would like to find out and get to level 4.
We haven't talked about enrollments and how that figures into the groupings. Just so you know, Wisconsin Dells, the largest Division IV school with an enrollment of 591. Wrightstown, the smallest school in Division IV with 427. And we're going to see a little later how that comes into play. But again, the schools are ranked 224 in order, and that's how you get the division groupings. And sometimes what was the case Friday night early isn't the case on Saturday when we come out with the brackets.
Bottom line, math is hard, so bear with us here.
Yeah, and bottom line, no matter where you're seated, no matter what your enrollment is, you keep winning. That's really all that matters.
That's right.
All right, that was Division 4. Now we're going to take a look at the Division 3 brackets. Let's start in Group A, where the number 1 seed, the Onalaska Hilltoppers, champions of the Mississippi Valley Conference this year, 9-0 record. They will host Ashland Friday night. Medford, a home game as the number 4 seed. They will host Lakeland. The number 3 seed is Rice Lake. They will be hosting Merrill, the 6th seed. And to round out that part of the quadrant, the 2nd seed, Mosinee, will host number 7, Shawano.
And Rice Lake, of course, played in the championship, Jay, a year ago. They finished runners-up. On Alaska, though, the number 1 seed, and for good reason. They're ranked number 2 in the state rankings, so you could have Rice Lake having to try to get past on Alaska to get a shot to get back to Camp Randall.
Number 2 seed, Mosinee, also a conference champion. They took the Great Northern this year. Okay, let's look at Group B in Division 3. Number 1 seed is West Salem, the Cooley Conference champion. They beat Aquinas last night, 28-14 to win that title. Number 8, Waupaca, will be going to West Salem Friday night. The 4-5 matchup, Luxembourg Casco hosting Fox Valley Lutheran. The 3-6 is Menasha hosting Baraboo. And the 2-7 is Notre Dame going to Reedsburg. Let's go on to Group C in Division 3. The Monroe Cheesemakers have had a great season, and they are the number 1 seed in that part of the bracket. They'll be hosting Portage on Friday night. The 4-5 is Pewaukee hosting Plymouth. The 3-6 is McFarland going to West Bend East. And the 2-7 has Stoughton traveling to Mount Horeb Barneville.
Yeah, I like the potential level 2 matchup, Jay. Monroe against Pewaukee. It's a 1-4 if it happens, but Pewaukee, of course, the defending Division 3 state champs, and Pewaukee, of course, they run the wing T. That's problems for anybody when you have to face this I'm not even going to call it an archaic offense. It's an offense. It's an old school offense that Justin Frisky runs, but it can cause problems. 11 different players at Pewaukee, Jay, have rushed for touchdowns this year. So you can't key on just one guy when you're trying to diagnose how to stop them. Monroe in round 2 might have to try to figure out the Pirates.
And if you look at the top and the bottom of that bracket, undefeated champions of the Badger Small Conference, Mount Horror-Barneveld, the number 2 seed at the bottom, their only loss was the guys at the top, Monroe, in week 2. So perhaps an intriguing matchup could be coming there as well. Jason, what are your thoughts on some of the teams in Division 3?
Yeah, take a look again at that top left side. Onalaska, the 1 seed, travel for Ashland 240 miles. I challenge anybody else to find a longer bus trip than that in this year's playoffs. Mosney, Coach Stoffel, in his first year, guided his Indians to a conference championship. That was a win in week 8 over Medford, 42-28. A heated rivalry between Mosney and Medford that Mosney happened to come on top that night. Not only were they conference champs, but they got the cheese grater trophy. So you like the trophy games. If chalk were to hold Onalaska and West Salem in a level 4, that's a game to go to state. I mentioned the 240 miles for Ashland and Onalaska. Onalaska and West Salem, 11 miles. So they would have, if chalk holds, they'll have to find a neutral site within 11 miles to play that football game. And we look forward. This is going to be a fun bracket there.
And the wait is over for the other 8 teams in the Division 3 bracket. Let's take a look at the rest of them. Yeah, it's coming. It's coming. It'll be worth the wait when you see your name. Here's Martin Luther, number 1 seed in Group D. They'll be hosting Milwaukee, Washington, Fuller Collegiate. That's coming up Friday night at 7. The 4-5 is New Berlin West hosting Greendale. The 3-6 is Grafton hosting Wisconsin Lutheran, and the 2-7 is Port Washington hosting New Berlin Eisenhower.
Grafton has had a terrific season, Chase, so look out for the Blackhawks there in the number 3 seed on that side. Martin Luther, I mentioned St. Cat's. That was their only loss in conference play, was to Martin Luther. So Martin Luther deserves that number 1 seed. But I'm looking at a potential Grafton-Martin Luther level 3 matchup. That's just a great matchup that can get you to level 4, where you'd have to prove it. Maybe that's Monroe coming down for level 4, and the winner there, of course, would play for all the marbles.
Jason, something else catch your eye in Division 3?
Again, in that top left side, I talked about it a couple brackets ago, and we can really talk about it in all these brackets. They are generally conference loaded as we keep everybody as close to home as possible. We take a look again, Ashland, Lakeland, Medford, Merrill, Mosney, all out of the Great Northern Conference. So teams very familiar with each other. Lakeland and Medford, the Lakeland T-Birds in the playoffs here in 2022. I got off to a bit of a hot start, have maybe trailed off a little bit. And then I mentioned Medford losing what turned out to be a conference championship game in week 8 over in Mosney, hoping that they were able to make some noise. And you guys had mentioned, Bob had mentioned Rice Lake, going down the road, but the Mosney Indians don't want to hear about Rice Lake. As a matter of fact, a Mosney Rice Lake level 2 game, that would be a good one as well.
And in case you missed any of our previous announcements on pairings, or want to look a little more closely at what we have seen, and eventually all the brackets will be posted, but go to the WIAA's website, wiawi.org. to get the latest and the most accurate and the best picture you'll find of the brackets and what's ahead here in the state football playoffs.
And print the brackets. A lot of folks like to print the brackets. They want them up in that fridge with magnets. So
yeah, and fill them in if you want.
Yeah,
can see how close
I'm doing it
come.
as we go along, Jay.
All right. Well, we mentioned that we had a chance to talk with Tom Shafransky, the WIAA Assistant Director and Football Liaison, about a number of topics concerning the state football playoffs. We're pleased to join now with Tom Shafransky, the WIAA Assistant Director and Football Liaison. Tom, thanks for spending some time with us. And first of all, talk about the process. How do we get the field selected and placed?
Jay, this has been a long-standing effort by so many people here at our office. Todd Clark has certainly led that along the way as our communications director. But it's we accumulate all the scores during the course of the season. Those are then combined with the conferences identifying for us the conference champions that they have. and how things have played out within their conferences. We take all of that, and then we've worked with the Football Coaches Association and had Eric Jacques put together a terrific program that helps us on a statewide basis. Any type of statewide qualifying procedures, statewide seating are always a real challenge to be able to organize. But we've got a program that we've been able to utilize with formulas that try to balance this out as far as all of the hurdles that we face in trying to be as equitable and as fair as possible to all of our school teams and identifying, what their value is throughout from their play this past year. And in the end, it provides us with the 224 qualifying teams and then allows us to be able from there break it up into divisions based upon their enrollments.
So the schools are on the lines on the brackets, and we're going to see those in a little bit. But how about the excitement of this reveal show?
This is just energized. It really has energized our entire office, all of us, and we think that it's something that's just going to be so exciting for the state of Wisconsin, not only here in football, but in other sports as we go through the course of the year. But right now, we are really fired up for the 2022 WIAA football championships, and to get them underway. Organizing this reveal show really kicks off with Bally Sports. It simply gets things going and expands the thrill of an exciting Wisconsin tradition that we think is going to carry on for years to come.
It's going to be a great month, and it starts right now. Tom Shafransky, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Jay. Really appreciate it.
You know how Aaron Rodgers has his doppelganger, the guy that looks like him?
Sure.
Like Shafransky and I are separated at birth, it looks like.
I know. It was creepy.
About this.
Just telling you that, Jay.
Yeah. But, I mean, I tell you what, it was a long night in Stevens Point at the WIAA office. I mean, I don't know that those folks have gone to bed yet.
Well, and as you mentioned, as soon as the show wraps up, each of the divisions, 8-man and then 1 through 7, they'll all be posted on the WIAA website. So if you want to print it and the folks just want to start and look like we're doing, trying to where are we going to play next? If we win, what's going to happen there? I know folks like to do that, so it's all going to be available for you, and everybody can start prepping for those level 1 matchups.
I think there's some scouting going on already.
As we speak, no doubt.
Yeah. Okay, coming up, our brackets in Division 2 and Division 1. A state champion from last year moving up a division. A state finalist from last year moving down a division. Well, there's a tease for you. Again, Division 2 and 1 bracket reveals coming up here on Bally Sports Wisconsin. Two more division brackets still to go here on the WIAA Playoff Bracket Reveal Show on Bally Sports Wisconsin. Bob Brainerd, Jay Wilson, Jason Zaleski also joining us. And, this is new territory for all of us and for all the coaches and players and families around the state. And social media is still new to a lot of us. But, boy, this is turning into an event, this Reveal Show. We're searching Twitter, and we're finding that some people are, in fact, having breakfast with our Reveal Show today.
That's how you do it. You band together, and then, like the folks down at Janesville Parker, they're getting together, watching on the big screen, having some snacks along the way. And you can see the hashtags. If you're watching, you want to hashtag, then show us your event going on. Please do that. We'll throw you up here sometime during the festivities this morning.
Yeah, the Vikings had a big win last night in the Big 8. They got into the playoffs, 6-3 record. So congratulations to them, and hope they're enjoying the excitement. And your name's coming up pretty quick here, everybody.
And we'll get to more of your tweets later on. But right now, Jay, time for more brackets.
Let's go to the Division 2 bracket. In Group A, the number 1 seed there is River Falls. And River Falls will be hosting La Crosse Central Friday night, 7 o'clock, level 1. The 4-5 matchup has Marshfield hosting Pulaski. The 6-3 matchup will be West De Pere hosting Holmen. And in the 2-7, it's Menominee traveling to New Richmond. Menominee, by the way, regular visitor to the state tournament playoffs. 36 times Menominee has qualified, and they got in this year with a 3-6 record.
Yeah, the Mustangs figured out a way to get in, so we'll see what they can do in their level 1 matchup.
Group B in Division 2, the North Shore champions, Hartford Orioles, will get the number 1 seed. They will host Nicolet Friday night. The Milwaukee City Blackburn Conference champion, Milwaukee Vincent Destiny, will host Homestead. Also, the 3-6 has Kaukauna traveling to Milwaukee King. And in the 2-7, it's Germantown going to Slinger Friday night.
All right, some notes on this part of the bracket. Hartford, the number 1 seed. The Orioles finished 7-2, but get this, Jay. They're going to host Nicolet. These two teams met last night. That's right, and Nicolet won the contest last night, 17-14. So I think the scouting is in place for both the Knights and the Orioles. They're going to face each other in level 1. Homestead, of course, they were the runners-up in D2 a year ago. They will have to play not in Mequon, but in Milwaukee against a Vincent team that was very formidable in MPS. And you've got King from the MPS. They get the host as well. Kaukauna having to come all the way down from up north to play. And Germantown, little head of steam for the Warhawks. They beat Brookfield Central, shut out the Lancers last night in Greater Metro play to get a win in the finale and get that playoff berth. They get Slinger, though. The Owls were very good contestants this year. So Germantown and Slinger, very close, almost neighbors in a level 1 matchup.
All right, let's take a look at Group C here in Division 2. The number 1 seed in that quadrant, Kettle Moraine, the Lasers. They'll be hosting 8th seed Milton Friday night. The 4-5 matchup, Monona Grove will travel to Waukesha West. The 3-6 matchup, DeForest will be hosting Sun Prairie West. And in case you're not familiar, Sun Prairie was one high school last year. This year, Sun Prairie split into East and West. Sun Prairie West makes the Division II field as a number 6 seed. And Sun Prairie East, the other Sun Prairie school, they're the Cardinals. Sun Prairie West is the Wolves. The Sun Prairie Cardinals you're more familiar with through the years, as they were a state finalist in Division I last year. And Sun Prairie East will be hosting number 7 Oregon at Ashley Stadium on Friday night.
So right there, Jay, you've sorted out all the Sun Prairie football organizations. If West and East can both win their matchups, then there you go, boom. You're going to be playing each other in a level 2 matchup. But back to the top in Kettle Moraine. Shout out to the Lasers. They come in with a record of 6-3. Their losses, though, if there's such a thing as quality losses, they lost to Fond du Lac, they lost to Arrowhead in the Classic 8, and lost to Muskego last night, 17-13. But 2 weeks ago, it was the Lasers winning in Wales 28-7 over McGuanago. Remember, McGuanago, for most of the year in Division I, was ranked number 1, but the Lasers really put it to them. So I think Kettle Moraine, Jay, they're a very sneaky number 1 seed over here, because if people look at the record, don't be deceived. They played in the Classic 8, very tough. Lasers could make a very deep run here in Division II.
Yeah, Classic 8's been pretty good here the last number
Brutal. Night in and night out.
Yeah, pretty good or brutal, which depending on what side of the fence you're standing on. Okay, let's go to Group D in Division 2. You mentioned Brookfield Central. The Lancers get a number 1 seed. They'll be hosting Union Grove Friday night. It's going to be Racine Park with a home game in Level 1. They'll be hosting Greenfield. The 3-6, the 3 is Waterford, the 6 is Burlington, so they'll play in Waterford Friday night. And the 2-7 is Westosha Central hosting Milwaukee Reagan. That's the Division II field this year.
And again, Brookfield Central getting the 1 seed, but again, they lost last night, got shut out by Germantown 14-0, so you wonder if that will sting a little bit. The seating committee, though, decided the Lancers had a good record, so they finished tied for 2nd place in the Greater Metro, had a chance to share the title, but because of the loss to Germantown, Sussex-Hamilton, who we'll talk about in Division I, Sussex-Hamilton wins outright the Greater Metro Conference title. But Brookfield Central, they got to regroup here, get ready to try to defend that number 1 seed on their side of the bracket.
Jason Zaleski, more insights into Division II.
We take a look back in that top left, the 4 seed, my Marshfield Tigers, the 4 seed. Coach Gadel and company very concerned that they would not have a home game coming into the playoffs as they tried to project and work through the new mathematical calculations. Very concerned that they would not have a home game. They are co-champions of the Valley Football Association, so very relieved, I'm sure, this morning that they know that they now get to play one more game at home. They beat Hortonville last night 35-22, so Trevor Femmel and company get to have one more home game at least in this year's playoffs. They take on, though, Pulaski, a tough number 5 team. They've rushed for almost 2,500 yards on the season. Maverick Cole responsible for 1,300 of those yards on the ground. Marshfield, though, defensively has been able to to contain most of the teams, and especially that run defense has been pretty good. So it's a real classic matchup there, somewhat of a defense-offense type collision in Marshfield coming up on Friday night. If chalk holds, the winner of that game will take on the River Falls Wildcats. Wildcats essentially rolled through the Big Rivers Conference. Wildcats can be a very tough out as that 1 seed. And we look towards the bottom there. I know Bob had mentioned Menominee. Yeah, the Mustangs, quite a run in these WIAA playoffs over the years. I'm not going to say upset, but certainly New Richmond should be prepared for a team and a tradition like the Mustangs coming to town on Friday night.
I don't know if everybody's a numbers person, but we've talked about a lot of numbers, and some of the statistics that these players have rolled up and the points for and points against are just remarkable. It's always interesting to see how much of that can hold up and how much of it is, well, we're in the playoffs now, things are a little different.
That's the big thing. And it's also about the conference that you play in. Sometimes the year has your conference down, and so players are able to roll up big digits. So all bets are off when you're out of conference play. If your conference was weak, now you get to the big boys. Now those stats, they go out the window.
Yeah. And Jason, if you have a big year and you can continue it into the state finals, I mean, that's really a feather in your cap.
Yeah, as we've talked about, this is kind of the second season. We go back to 0-0, but you put 1,000 yards on the ground or 1,000 yards in the air, you start to put a comma into those stats. It makes people like us take notice for sure.
All right, we're just about ready to reveal the Division I brackets, but first a quick check at social media. Again, some schools and teams around the state are watching us on Bally Sports Wisconsin. This looks like the Xavier Hawks. Boy, they're all gathered. And also wishing well to Travis Wilson. In case you missed it at the top of the show, Travis had a little medical issue overnight and not able to join us, but hopefully he's on a quick recovery. And there's the Val Phillips Memorial Spartan football team. Mike Harris and company getting ready to hear their name in the Division I brackets, which are coming up in just a moment. In fact, why wait? Let's do it now. Here come the brackets, the pairings for Division I in the 2022 WIAA State Football Tournament. The Bayport Pirates, the number 1 seed in Group A. They will be hosting 8th-seeded De Pere on Friday night. The 4-5 matchup. There's some old foes from way back. Wausau West will be hosting Wisconsin Rapids Lincoln. It will be Chippewa Falls with a home game. They'll be hosting Appleton North. And Hudson also at home. They'll play DC Everest in the 2-7 matchup.
So back to the top there, Jay. Bayport, I mentioned Mugwanago for most of the year in Division I in the rankings. If you're into the rankings, Mugwanago Indians were ranked number 1 for most of the year. When they fell in Week 8 to Kettle Moraine, Bayport slid in. So the Pirates going in with the number 1 seed in the rankings, number 1 seed on this side of the brackets.
Wondering why we haven't said Wanakee's name yet?
I've been wondering that, Jay. Why is that?
Well, it is time to say Wanakee's name.
That's
Warriors,
why.
The Division II champions last year, 33-21 over Homestead. They move up to Division I this year. They're still a number 1 seed. They're still a dynamic, powerful team, but they will try to go through a gauntlet in Division I. Wanake's first matchup in Level 1 will be Friday night at 7 as they face Sheboygan North in Wanakee. The 4-5 matchup, Milwaukee Marshall, Carmen Northwest, Milwaukee Juneau, Milwaukee Languages, commonly referred to as the Milwaukee Marshall Co-op. They'll be hosting Middleton Friday night. The 3-6, a great matchup in the Fox Valley as Fond du Lac will travel to Kimberly. And in the 2-7, it's Neenah hosting Brookfield East Friday night.
Well, Wanakee, that's the big story here, right, Jay? Going from Division II, where they have made runs to state, won state titles, finished as runners-up, but now how do they respond? How do they play with the big boys in Division I? And, yeah, at the bottom there, Neenah, Kimberly, maybe in a second-round matchup, and then Middleton. Be careful, Middleton, going into Milwaukee. Milwaukee Marshall has some athletes. They've got some speed, and so that's a big reason that they earned that number 4 seed. They earned the right to host Middleton and have them travel to Milwaukee. But a possible Wanakee-Kimberly matchup at level 3, I mean, there's so many terrific matchups on this side that could be before they even get to state.
Wanakee and Kimberly both have 7 state championships on their own. Wanakee, by the way, in conference outscored their opponents 318-32 this year. So Warriors will be a formidable foe in Division I, as they are every year, no matter what division they're in. Okay, Group C in Division I. Top seed Arrowhead will be hosting Janesville Parker Friday night. The 4-5 seed, there are your Madison Memorialville Phillips Memorial Spartans. They'll be hosting Milwaukee Pulaski, Carmen South, Carmen Southeast. The 3-6 matchup has Hamilton hosting Milwaukee Riverside Golda Meir. And the 2-7, the Big 8 Conference champions, Verona Area Wildcats, they'll be hosting the Hilltoppers from Marquette, the 7 seed.
And I talked earlier about Sussex Hamilton, a 3 seed, but not getting a whole lot of love in the rankings. Unranked, and yet they were first in the winning the Greater Metro title. So Sussex Hamilton, watch out for these guys. 7-2, won the Greater Metro. Nate Koleth is the quarterback. Big kid, strong arm, threw 22 passing touchdowns, ran in 16 more, Jay. So the Chargers, if everybody's going to sleep on the Sussex Hamilton, watch out. They could make a team like Arrowhead pay in a level 3 matchup. That's a potential matchup on November 4th.
Talk about a dual threat, huh?
Oh, yeah.
That's a lot of TDs.
Yeah, Koleth is the real deal.
Okay. Now, the final 8 teams in our Division I bracket. Let's go to Group D. Muskego, the number 1 seed, will be hosting Kenosha Indian Trail in Level 1. Racine Horlick gets a home game. They'll host the 5th seed, Franklin. It will be Badger as the number 3 seed, hosting number 6, Oak Creek. And Muckwonago, 2nd seed, hosting number 7 seed, Milwaukee Hamilton Audubon Tech.
This side of the bracket, Jay, in Division I is absolutely loaded, and here's why. You've got a couple teams. Arrowhead, you saw from the Classic 8 on the top half. Then you've got Muckwonago and Muskego. Muskego a winner last night over Kettle Moraine. Muckwonago just the one loss to Kettle Moraine this year. So those 2 Classic 8 teams are in here. Oak Creek and Franklin are in here. They butted heads in the Southeast Conference. And then you throw in Horlick, who also had a very terrific year under their head coach. But they finished 7-2. Their only losses in the Southeast Conference this year were to Oak Creek and Franklin. So the Horlick Rebels are in here as well. This is really a bloodbath to me when you're looking on that side in Division I, Jay.
Yeah, last year's Division I final, by the way, was Franklin 38 and Sun Prairie 17. Again, Sun Prairie split into the East and West. So, again, Sun Prairie down in Division II as both an East and a West. Well, Division I, what's your appetite from your perspective, Jason?
Hey, it's tasty right now. Division I got a lot of good matchups in it this year. You take a look at that top left, another regular season rematch, conference co-champs. I mentioned Marshfield, co-champs of the Valley Football Association. Well, they share it with Wausau West and Wisconsin Rapids Lincoln, that 4-5 matchup. I mean, if you're a curious onlooker of high school football, you look to the 4-5 matchups for some really good teams, especially nowadays how we're seeding these teams correctly now. Wausau West beat Wisconsin Rapids back on September 2nd, 20-17, a close one, a real nail-biter at Tom Field. Now, Coach Biola will take his Wisconsin Rapids football team back to Wausau for the rematch as the 5 seed. Wisconsin Rapids probably scratching their heads, said, we've lost once this year. We're division champs and we're on the road. But that's the way that the math works. Take a look at the bottom of that bracket. DC Everest at Hudson. We talked earlier about teams exchanging game film. Well, there is game film available right there and some instant study that those 2 teams can do. They both had a common opponent in Marshfield. DC Everest in week 4 lost to Marshfield 44-29. Hudson beat Marshfield in week 1 24-7. So both DC Everest and Hudson can kind of compare themselves against a common opponent and then begin to strategize. Of course, Everest, a statewide name of the last 20, 30 years, maybe in the last 10, not so much. But the Evergreens get a chance as the season starts over at 0-0, but the Hudson Raiders, a really tough out in the bottom of that bracket.
I want to check on one thing, Jason, that you said. Now that we're seeding properly, you said. Do you get the sense that the things are in pretty good spot?
I think things are in a great spot seating wise. There's the human element to the seating, or at least the seating days of old, where coaches they go into a room. Maybe they had some preconceived notions. Maybe they made some backroom deals with some other teams, and now it's just math, and the math never lies when it comes to the playoff seating.
What I see, Jason and Jay, in Division I, Classic 8, you've got McGuanago, Muskego, and Arrowhead, who all beat each other up. And now we're going to have familiarity again because they may get chances to play each other again somewhere along the way to try to get the state. From the Southeast, Oak Creek, Franklin, Horlick all beat each other up in conference play. They might see each other again. And then don't forget about Lake Geneva Badger, 8-1, first-place finishers in the Southern Lakes Conference. Their only loss was to Racine Horlick. Head coach Matt Hessler, his offense always presents a problem to diagnose. The reason, this is what I had on my game notes. Matt Hessler runs the wishbone / flexbone / triple option. It's something you don't see every day. And so if you get them and Badger faces Oak Creek in round 1, then Oak Creek is going to have its hands full. A second round matchup, if Badger wins and McGuanago wins, you got Badger against McGuanago. McGuanago, they've got a terrific running back and one of the best names in all of high school football, Win Stang.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So many familiar possibilities in levels 2, 3, and 4 matchups to try to get to state. Because you've got these conference foes who did so well in conference play, they might see each other again. Game film, optional if you do that.
There you go. Dan Brunner is the executive director of the Wisconsin Football Coaches Association. We had a chance to catch up with Dan and get his thoughts as we begin the 2022 football playoffs. We'd like to welcome in now Dan Brunner, the executive director of the Wisconsin Football Coaches Association. Dan, thanks for being with us. Well, an exciting day. This is bracket reveal has been talked about for quite some time, and it's finally here. Your reaction to this day?
Yeah, thanks, Jay. Thanks for having me on. This is something we've looked forward to. It's all come to fruition due to the hard work by Eric Jock, the WIAA. We couldn't do this without that intricate computer program he put together, which kind of replaces the seed meetings and grouping meetings, etc. And it's finally come to fruition, and we're excited.
What's been the early reaction to this format, to this reveal?
Jay, I've heard all the coaches I've heard from are excited. They're having breakfast meetings with their team. They're anticipating, a lot of excitement being generated throughout the state, and I think that's going to happen.
Is it tough to keep everybody happy?
Boy, it's always. There's going to be people that are grumble about, mostly what group they're put in. I don't think they complain about the seeding, or who their opponents are going to be and so forth. It's just that grouping thing that always comes back to haunt a few coaches. And, you just can't please everybody all the time. But overall, I think it's going to be a great, great event.
For so many people that devote so much energy and time. All right, well, the field is set. And
it's all set.
We'll know in a little less than a month again. Or no, in a month. We'll be sitting down, hopefully at a nice, warm, toasty Camp Randall Stadium and see some state finals.
Yeah, can't wait. And the 8-man, of course, will be played up north, and then 7 divisions over 2 days on Thursday and Friday in mid-November. We will crown those 7 champions live on Bally Sports, Wisconsin.
There they are, November 17th and 18th, 7 games in 2 days. From Camp Randall Stadium right here on Bally Sports, Wisconsin. We hope you'll join us for all that. We'd like to thank our sponsors who make the WIAA championships and events like this possible. Wisconsin DOT and Rural Mutual Insurance. Travis Wilson, get better soon. For Jason Zaleski, Bob Brainerd, and our entire Rush Media crew, thanks for joining us. I'm Jay Wilson. See you for the finals at Camp Randall.